In this video, we're going to take a look at Tier 1 of the HackTheBox Starting Point track. In the last video, we went through Tier 0, so there was a series of machines. I think we had 5 machines. Each one has a series of questions that you need to answer and some different tasks that you need to complete, so running scans and enumerating services and things like that. This time we're on Tier 1, so we have 6 machines, I believe, this time, with a variety of tasks. If you're unsure about what HackTheBox is and the different features that we have here, how to get connected and things like that, go back to the first video where we talk about how to set this up. But you should have this starting point green in the top right hand corner to indicate that you're connected to the VPN for the starting point. So this isn't the same VPN that you use to connect to HackTheBox normally. You'll have an IP address, something like this, on your ton 0 or ton 1 or something if you have multiple VPNs. But just make sure you're connected, and that way we'll be able to communicate with the box. And with that out of the way, let's get started with appointment, which is rated as very easy. We have 12 tasks. And the first thing we need to do is spawn a machine. So we'll spawn a machine. This might take a minute. Let me come back when this is all booted up and ready. Okay, so yeah, it took about a minute to boot up. We've been given this IP address, and we can go and try to ping it now to make sure we have a connection. If you don't have a connection here, either the box hasn't finished booting up, some services might take longer than others, but the ping should start working as soon as it's ready to go. But also the box can crash as well. In the last video we were going through, we're having some problems probably with the VPN server that I was using, so hopefully we don't have these problems this time. What I'll do is start an nmap scan, and we'll do all ports, we'll enumerate services and just put in the IP, and we'll just leave that to run. We could use our -v or -vv to give a verbose output so we can see the results as it's going through. But I'm not going to bother doing that in this case. We'll just go and answer some of these questions while we're waiting for the nmap scan to complete. The first question that we're asked is, what does the acronym SQL stand for? So SQL, or SQL as many people call it, is a structured query language. Structured query language. You can submit that. Very easy thing to Google if we don't know the answer to some of these questions. You should be able to click on any one of these links or just scroll down a little bit and you'll see plenty of these have structured query language, structured query language, structured query language. If you wanted to be very specific, you could just say what is the acronym, and then you're likely to get the answer, hopefully right here, yeah, structured query language. So that's the first question out of the way. The next one is, what is the most common type of SQL vulnerability? Which we would expect to be SQL injection. And I'm sure we'll go into some examples of that as we go through, so I'll not kind of go into this too much. What does PII stand for? This is it's either personal identifiable information or personally identifiable. Yeah, there we go, okay. And next up it asks us, what does the OWASP top 10 list name the classification for this vulnerability? We can see that there's a dash here in the middle that ends with an N. It's going to be something injection. So let's go and have a look at the OWASP top 10. It changes each year, and there has been some changes in recent years, so let's go and see what those changes were. We can see here we've got 2017, injection was ranked number 1 as the category. And 2021 it's moved down to number 3, so we have A03 colon 2021 injection. A03 2021 injection. Yep, looking good. Task 5. What service and version are running on port 80 of the target? Let's go back to our nmap scan, and we can see here we have HTTPD 2.4.31. So let's. Oh, do we need the full thing there? It looks like it. Apache HTTPD. Oh, it wants the brackets as well. Okay, 1 second. It's the whole string, so there we go. So you'll hopefully remember from the last video that what we would typically do if we find something like this would be to go and run search exploit. So you can just do search exploits and then give it HTTPD 2.4.31, and we can see that, okay, HTTPD, well, this is OpenBSD. But less than 6 has a denial of service vulnerability. If you want to be a little less specific, we could say 2.4, because there might be some that's being so specific there might have missed out some potential where they use a range instead of a specific value. Okay, next question is, what is the standard port used for the HTTPS protocol? And the answer to this is 443. So we use 443 for the HTTPS and port 80 for HTTP. What is one look-based method of exploiting login pages? I'm assuming this is going to be brute forcing. It's look-based because you basically have to be lucky that the user has used an insecure password, not very strong password, and that the word list you're using or the rules that you're using will actually find that password. What is the folder called in web application terminology? Okay, that'd be a directory. So in our last video we went through some directory busting where we looked at GoBuster and DirBuster and some other things. What is response code given for not found errors? This is probably one of the errors you see the most whenever you browse into web pages. So this would be a 404, not found. And what switch do we use with GoBuster to specify we're looking to discover directories and not subdomains? Again, in our last video, let's just go back and do this, GoBuster. You can see we have different commands here. We have our dir, we have our DNS, we have fuzz, we have S3 for doing AWS buckets. So we would say GoBuster dir, and then we can do help. Oh no, we do GoBuster help dir, and get the specific flags and commands that are available for that mode. Okay, so let's go and set that to dir. And what symbol do we use to comment out parts of our code? Well, I was going to say it depends what language, but of course we're talking about SQL. But I mean that can vary as well. Let me see. Yeah, it was a hash. Okay. That's a bit. Yeah, because you can also use dash dash in SQL. It really depends on the syntax as well. I think you can use star slash for some of them, like this is a comment, or I guess in this case, or sometimes the dash dash. Okay, maybe it would have taken multiple answers there, I'm not sure. And then finally it wants the root flag, which, okay, we need to go and actually, let's try and browse to this. We know it's open on port 80, so we should be able to just go and view the page. And let's just try our usual admin, log in. Nope, not happening. So in this case, let's actually try an SQL injection, a basic one. And let me inspect the element here. I'm just going to make this so you can see what's being typed, because at the moment if I type in something, it's just going to be these dots. But if we get rid of this type here and say we don't want it to be type password, then we can actually see what we're typing in here. And typically what we want to type here is something like or 1 equals 1. I'm going to take a copy of that. Let's see if it works first of all. It actually doesn't work. Okay, let's try that again. That doesn't work either. Okay, let's try it in the username field. I'm going to put that in password as well. And that doesn't work. Alright, so maybe it's not a SQL injection challenge. Something else we could do is go and throw it into SQLMap, but I'm kind of thinking that it also asked us some questions here about directory busting, so maybe we need to use GoBuster instead to brute force the directories. What I am going to do, we might as well just take this opportunity to demonstrate SQLMap as well. You can use SQLMap in a few different ways. What I'm going to do is, let me do just a normal login here, admin. I'm going to go to Burp Suite and have a look at this request that was sent. I'm going to take a copy of this request that's there. I'm going to put this into a file just called new.request, and we'll paste this in here. And then you can just do SQLMap-R request and then pass in that new request. And it'll run through in case of some other kind of SQL injection. Maybe I didn't get the syntax right for the type of SQL that's running, or maybe it's not vulnerable to a simple bypass of the password, but you might need some kind of time-based injection. As you can see here, the parameter username appears to be MySQL, so it's got the database version and it seems to have found an injection. I'm just going to hit yes to go through all the default options here. Just checking to see if it's a false positive. Let me minimize some of this so we can see the terminal a bit better. Username is vulnerable. Do you wish to keep going? No. Okay. Let it try to optimize the values. And there it's just exited. Okay, so it came back and it told us what the operating system is and the web application technology, our SQL database, etc. What we might want to do here is go to try and actually dump some values from the database then. So just to explain the SQL injection a little bit more here, we have a time-based blind. So let me open up Sublime and let's do an example here. So let's say that we're entering in a username and a password for a login field, and in the back end there's a SQL query which is going to say something like select all from users. So we're selecting all from the users table where the username equals, and then this is the user that we've typed in here. Let me put $1 here so we know it's something that we've entered. This is a user input where the username equals, in fact we need our quotes here just to demonstrate this as well, and the password equals, and then we have our password that we've entered. So this is a query that runs. We put in admin and then admin as our username and our password. It says, okay, let's grab the username from the users table where the username equals the user that we've put in and the password equals the password we've put in. So if either of these conditions aren't true, if either the username doesn't exist or the password doesn't match for that username, it won't return any values. We're trying to select all, but there's going to be nothing in the results. But if we were to say here, or 1 equals 1, what happens if we insert this as our password? We can say that the pass is here, we insert this, and actually it's going to close off the, actually let me take this bit out, so the pass has been inserted here. That was a bad way to do it, 1 second. Let me take this, let's replace our pass here. So what's happened is we put in the password admin and then we've closed off this quote. So we're no longer, this is no longer the string that we're dealing with, we're actually injecting into the logic here. So instead of saying select all from users where the username equals admin and the password equals admin, we're saying select all from users where the username equals admin and the password equals admin, or 1 equals 1. And in this case 1 always equals 1, so the result is going to come back true no matter whether the password is correct here or not. The difference being with the sleep query, the sleep injection, or blind injection should we say. So there are two types of blind injection. You've got error based and you have time based. So we could make a query and say, we could ask it to return the first character of the password, for example, and say, does the first character of the password equal A? And if it does, we ask it to sleep for 5 seconds. If it doesn't, just continue. And we keep doing that and going through each possible character until we've got the first character, and then we ask what is the second character, the substring, and we go through and we basically loop through each character until we get our response. And actually it's not even as hard as looping through every character, because what we would instead say is, rather than saying does the first character equal A, we would say is the first character less than M or greater than M? And if it's greater than M, we can then divide it and say what's in the middle of M and Z, and then we'll say is it greater or less than that, and we'll keep going until we get to the end, but it's not going to be sequentially running through every character. The other type would be the error based, where we ask it is the substring, is the first character of the password an A, and we get back an error if it's correct, otherwise we don't. So that would obviously require us to have some kind of feedback on the screen. So it would require us to, whenever we enter in a password, it comes back and says either, I don't know, username not found or nothing. And if we're able to trigger that error of username not found based on a condition that we can supply, then we can ask it, does the first character equals this? Does the second character equal this? And keep going through until we've got the full thing. Hopefully that explained that okay. I did do, about a year ago, I did a series on the DVWA, which is a damn vulnerable web application, which had a SQL injection and a blind SQL injection, where I went through and kind of manually showed how we could do that with each character, and then put together a script to do it, and then also did it with SQLMap as well. So the video quality is not great. I was kind of just getting used to making videos. The audio is a bit hit and miss, but if you're interested in learning a bit more about that, you can go and check that out. And with that background explanation out of the way, let's have a look and see if we run SQLMap-H what options we have. So we have a wizard option here, simple interface for beginners, which will basically ask you a series of questions and you can just input some different values. So that's quite good if you're getting used to this. We can also do -HH to get the full help menu. We have some other options here, OS shell and OS pwn. So sometimes SQL injection can actually be used to gain a shell on the system. And if that's the case, you'll be able to do it with these flags. And then this is our main flags here for enumerating. So we have some other stuff up here. This is the level and the risk will be used if you're trying to gain access to a system which maybe has some kind of web application firewall or has something that you need to be a bit quieter. Here is what we're interested in at the moment, because we know we've got our blind SQL injection, but whenever we want to run through this, we can either say we want to dump everything, or we can enumerate things one by one and ask what tables are present, and then based on the tables that are present we can say, okay, well, we're interested in the user table, for example, and kind of drill our way down then using these other flags, the -D, the -T, and the -C. So I'm going to run the same command that we ran previously, but I'm just going to add this --tables. Hopefully it's not going to run, hopefully it's kind of stored in the cache some of the information so that we don't need to, it doesn't need to go through as many checks. Let's see. You can see, by the way, this is the actual command that's running here. So we could go and run this. You could go and put this into Burp Suite, and just instead of sending the username, you could send the username as something like this. And you'll see here 1, 2. Well, I've started counting a bit late there, but it's sleeping for 5 seconds. Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, roundabout. So we could basically go through and keep doing that, and then we would be saying this here wouldn't work, but we would need to say we need to ask what the substring is. I don't have the command here to hand, so but you can do it very easily manually as well. So you see the issue here is it does take quite a long time to retrieve the table names. So if we were just to go ahead and try to dump the whole database and every table, every column, it's going to take a very long time. Which is why if you can go through and find out what tables you have first and which one is going to be most interesting, you can go through in the order of interest. I'll speed through this section and then we'll go and have a look at the tables. Okay, so I'm actually going to stop this now because you can see that it's running through quite a lot of tables here for the information schema database, which we're not going to be interested in. So what I'm going to do now is specify the database, because we know that we've got this appdb, and then specify the table, which is users. It's the only table that was in the appdb. And then I'm going to say dump. And hopefully this is going to go and dump all of the usernames and the passwords and stuff from the users table. So let's just go through all our default options again. It's retrieving the columns here, so it's retrieved the ID column, it's retrieving the username column, and then predictably it'll retrieve the password column as well. So again, we could specify this even further. Instead of saying -D appdb and -T users and then dump, we could say also -C for column password and then dump that. In fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to do that now because the amount of time it's going to take to even find the columns is probably going to be too much. Let's do password. Okay, so it came back with the first password there, which, yeah, you'd have to be very, very lucky to brute force that. And it came back with a second, ba. Alright, let's try this with hopefully what's going to be the username admin. Let's say username, no, not username, let's say admin. Log in and we get back our flag. Awesome, so we'll go and submit that as HackTheBox and then put in our flag. Machine will be terminated automatically. Okay, I booted the machine back up there because I had a feeling that I was overcomplicating things there using SQLMap and the blind SQL injection, because it's the first machine on a tier 1 track. And we know that the SQL injection was in the username field, which reminded me that in the recent HackTheBox Cyber Santa CTF, there was a similar challenge, which I also overcomplicated by using SQLMap and the blind SQL injection to retrieve all the usernames and passwords, when actually what we should be able to do is just specify a username here and end this with a, let me end that with an apostrophe. We get nothing. Let's try it again, and this time add a comment to the end of the username, and then we also get logged in. So if we go back to our code here, this is the code that we were looking at previously. Let me set that back the way it was. So we put in our username in here, we put in our password in here, but if we were to put in our username as, let me insert this here, and then the comment, so essentially now we're saying select all from users where the username equals admin, and then a comment which closes off the SQL statement, so it never even checks the password at all. So that was a simple and intended way to solve that. Just thought I'd go through that quickly as well. But we've learned a couple of new things, how to use SQLMap and what blind SQL injection is in terms of error-based and time-based. So no time wasted really. Alright, let's move on to the next machine, which is called SQL. So we can get an idea what that's about based on the title, as is quite often the case with machines and challenges. And we're just booting up the machine here, so I'll come back once this is ready to go. Alright, so we've got our target machine IP address. We'll take a copy of this and we'll make sure that we're first of all able to communicate with it, which we seem to be able to. So I guess in the last video some of the issues were probably just some server problems at the time. Let's go ahead and do our nmap on all ports, and let's do SV to enumerate the version, and then we'll put that in. Go back to our questions. Our first question is, what does the acronym SQL stand for? So this was in the last machine, so we should know it by now. Structured Query Language. Nothing wrong with the repetition there, by the way. The best way to learn these things is to have to answer the questions a couple of times, or at least repeat, that's how you revise things. During our scan, what port do we find SQL running on? I've not got the scan back yet, but I'm going to say it's 3306. Correct, alright, so it's a pretty standard port for MySQL. If we were to search MySQL port, 3306, default port. So it can be on any port, but that's the default. Okay, has our scan come back? It hasn't anyway, let's keep going. What community developed MySQL version is the target running? Alright, so we do need the results for this one. So we could have used the verbose flag there to try and speed things up, or at least get a bit more information as it's coming. Although I think the service enumeration will happen after all the ports have been identified, so it probably wouldn't have really speeded things up in this case. But I'll come back once the results are back. Okay, so it came back. It didn't actually come back with the version there, and we don't have the community developed MySQL version that's running on the system. So we could try and run that again with, let's set the port to 3306. Just wondering if we use default scripts, will it give us anything different? What we can also do is go and have a look at the MySQL help. So with MySQL we can try to connect to servers, and we have the -h for hostname. We can use our -u for username, -p for password, capital P for port. So we could say MySQL. Let me just see if we can just pass in the host with no username or password, and let me grab this IP. It should know to check the default port anyway. Another thing we could probably do is just do netcat and then 3306. Let's see what comes back with an answer first. Alright, so we got access denied in this case. It didn't come back with any info. Let's try and do -u admin -p. It asks us for a password, admin. We go back to our netcat. Netcat did come back with a version here, but I don't know, we've got some weird looking characters here. I don't know if this is going to work for us. Let's try and submit this. Oh, it ends with a B. Okay, so is it just the, I think it's just looking for MariaDB. It is, alright, so that was actually a bit easier than expected. We got our access denied again there. Okay. What switch do we need to use in order to specify a login username? That's -u. As we just saw there when we tried to connect with admin. which username allows us to log into MySQL without providing a password. So presumably this will be root. Let's go and try this again and do without a password. Let's just do username root. Okay, this actually connected properly then. So we just need to provide root with no password, and we get back our full server version without any strange characters. Good stuff. Alright, our default scripts enumeration hasn't come back yet. Let's go and continue with the next question. Oh well, let's answer this question first. Roots. What symbol can we use to specify within the query that we want to display everything inside a table? So we saw that in the last example, and funnily enough, the entry here is actually is actually the answer. So it's actually suggesting a star there. Alright, submit. And what symbol do we end each query with? And that would be a semicolon. Just to demonstrate, actually, it will actually wait for us. So if we say here show databases and then hit enter, you can see here it's gone to the next line. It's waiting for that semicolon, and we can keep hitting enter. Nothing's going to happen until we supply that semicolon to say we've ended the statement, and then it will come back with the results. You can see we have HTB here, so we'll do select all from no, sorry, that's the database, not the table. We want to say first of all we need to specify which database we want to use. So we'll say use HTB, and then we want to show tables, semicolon. We've got two tables, so we could say here we want to select all from config, and there's our flag. We could do the same again and say users. There's our users and the emails, and obviously you could drill down on this, so you could say, instead of select all, we could say select username from users, and similarly here you could say select value from config, and you could be more specific. You could say select value from config where, and then give an example. So for example, where name equals flag. Let me actually do that. Select value from config where name equals flag. And there we get back our flag. Alright, so that's a bit of an intro as to how we can navigate the database. Let's go and submit our root flag. And that's the SQL box completed. So now we'll move on to Crocodile. Again, spawn the machine. It's going to take a minute or two to boot up, so I'll come back when that's done. Okay, that's it up and running. So again, we'll take a copy of the IP. We'll go and make sure this is online. We've still got our Nmap scan actually from the last result. So it did come back. Whenever we use the default scripts, it came back with the version. So we didn't actually need to connect to the database there either. Alright, good stuff. Let's ping this. We've got a response. So let's do nmap-all ports, enumerate versions. And this time I will use the -vv flag. Just so you can see, so we're discovering open ports, but it's not going to do the service enumeration until we've checked all of those open ports. And that's all TCP ports as well. We're not checking any UDP ports at the moment. And let's have a look at this first question. What Nmap scanning switch employs the use of default scripts? Okay, that's a coincidence. -sc, and that was what we had used there previously. You can specify scripts as well. Nmap has a lot of different flags and options. So you can see here, for example, the scripts. So you can actually pass in scripts. You can use, I think, NME. Is NME a thing? No. No. Okay. I used to have an alias set up, NME, which would allow you to search for scripts. So you could just do like NME SMB or NME FTP, and it would give you a list of all the possible scripts to run. But okay, that doesn't matter. SC will do default scripts, which to be honest is normally what I would run anyway, if I was running any at all. Alright, that came back. It's got a 21 FTP and 80 HTTP. We've got our versions there. So again, we could go and have a look with search exploits, see is there any vulnerabilities with this version of FTP or with this version of Apache. In this case, let's go back here and see what else it's asking us for. In fact, let me go back. Let me do that again. I'm going to specify our ports, 2180, and I'm going to do the default scripts, because it's asked us about the default script switch. I feel like it might be needed. Alright, and while we're waiting for that to come back, let's see what the next question is. What service version is running on port 21? Okay. There we go, there's our FTP. So you can see the default scripts, it actually ran through there to check if anonymous login was allowed. And it's come back with some of the entries, some of the files that are actually on the FTP server. We've got some more information here as well. And with the HTTP, we've got the server header and the title, which we didn't have last time. Alright, so we'll provide vsftbd. What FTP code is returned to us for the anonymous FTP login allowed message? Good question. 230. Alright, so we could try as well. Let's do FTP. Let me take that IP address. We could say here anonymous, and you see here 230 login successful. So it was another way for us to do that. We can now list the files in this directory. Again, we can do help here, or we can do tab. No, we can't do tab. Alright. We can do help and get a list of different commands we can run. So we might want to, for example, download something with get, or we might want to try and put something with put to see if we're able to upload files. And as I mentioned in the previous video, if you're able to upload files to the FTP server and then access that FTP server through the browser, you might be able to, if you're able to, sorry, let me clarify that. If you're able to upload to the FTP server and the FTP server is in the web directory, it's accessible through the web, then you can potentially upload like a PHP shell or something like that and then go and access it through the browser to get a reverse shell. Okay, so 230 anyway, let's answer that question. Next question, what command can we use to download files we find on the FTP server? So we just did that as well. The command was get. It's asking us what is one of the higher privileged sounding usernames in the list we've retrieved. I'm going to download that in a second, but this ends with an N and it's 5 characters long, so we can probably... Oh, wait. Oh, no, yeah, okay. I spelled admin wrong there. I was wondering what's going on. Yeah, so that was admin. Let's go and get the file that it's talking about anyway. You can use mget as well, which... Oh, no, you can't. Let me see. Mget, you can, okay. So you can use mget to download multiple files at once. I'm going to download this allowed... Oh, you can't do autocomplete here. Okay, let's download this. And let's cat that out. Yes, we've got our usernames here, Aaron, Pwn Meow, Egotistical, SW, and admin. Let's also do that again with the .password. And here we have the passwords for those users as well. Next it asks us what Apache HTTP server is running, so we'll go back to our Nmap scan. We'll see it was 2.4.41. Submit that. What is the name of a handy website analysis plugin we can install into our browser? I actually have no idea what it's asking us for here. I don't have any plugins here, I don't think, that really I use for analyzing browsers. Analyzing websites, sorry. Okay, let's search for pen testing browser extensions. See what I'm missing. Alright, here's 18 extensions for turning Firefox into a penetration testing something or other. Here's our top 10 browser extensions for ethical hackers. Tamper data, let's see what fits here as well. Alright, so it's one word, it ends with an R. Wapalizer, let's try that. It is that, okay, cool. I actually don't really have any experience using this. Let's go and see what it's about. Okay. I thought I did have this as an extension actually. No, okay. And it will find out the technology stack of any website, creates a list of websites, okay, so provide a website in here. Linux hint technology lookup. WordPress, okay. Program languages, caching. That's cool, I've learnt something new. And we've got task 7 done. What else is it asking us for? What switch can we use for GoBus to specify we're looking for specific file types? So this is the extension with GoBuster and it's -x. Let me just bring up the GoBuster help. No, it's always, I always get that the wrong way around. It's GoBuster help dir, and we have a -x extensions. So basically, if we provide a word list here to enumerate, it's going to go through and check to see if each one of those words in our word list is a file or a directory. But if you want to check and see, let's say for example you have a word list and the word is admin, it'll go through and it'll check, is there a file called admin or a directory called admin? But if you want to have a look and see, is there a file called admin.php or admin.html or something like that, you need to provide that -x option. Submit that. And task 9, what file have we found that can provide us a foothold on the target? Well, we had in our FTP server, we grabbed the passwords and the usernames here, but that doesn't fit with the placeholder we have. It looks like it's looking for a .php file. So let's do a gobuster. Let's do some directory busting. So we'll say gobuster dir. We want to provide a word list with -w. I'm going to do user share word lists dir b, and then no, I'm doing dir buster, and then directory list lowercase medium. I just always use this word list, so there's maybe better ones, but so it's going to run through every word in this word list, but we also want to make sure we append PHP as an extension to it. So let's try that. We also obviously need our URL, so we'll get our IP address here. Let's just go and open it up in the browser as well, see what it looks like. Okay, there we go. So we can go and have a look through here, have a browse around, have a look at the source code and stuff, see if there's anything of interest. I'm going to take a copy of that and just supply it here as the URL. Alright, so we run through very quickly, we get back login.php. So let's go and try login.php. It's asking for a username and a password. We got some usernames and passwords, so let's try some of them. I'm going to try this admin at the end because admin was the highest privilege user that we found, or is what you would expect to be the highest privilege user, should I say. Enter that as a username and password, and we've logged in. We've got back our flag. So we can go back over here, we can say that the answer to this was login.php, and then we can submit our root flag. And that's Crocodile done. Let's move on to the fourth machine, which is called Ignition. Again, I'll spawn the machine and wait for this to boot up. Okay, system booted up, so again we'll go and make sure we've got a connection and that we can ping it. We can. Let's run our nmap scan. I'm going to do all ports, I'm going to do service enumeration, and we'll do default scripts, and then let's run that. It looks like the first question is asking us right away for the server version, so going to need to wait for the results here, but let's take this IP address anyway and let's go and try to open it in the browser while we're waiting and see, have we got a, okay, we've got unknown host there. So what's happened is we've gone to the IP address, it's redirected to ignition.hackthebox, and it doesn't, there's no lookup in our host table for this address, so we need to go and add this. This is typically what happens with a HackTheBox machine. So you want to open up etc hosts, and basically every time a machine comes out, you can see I've got Handcliffe in here at the moment. You basically want to map the domain name, which is always, pretty much always the machine name.hackthebox, to the IP address that you've been assigned for it. So let's go and grab that IP address and paste this in here. Let's save it. And now whenever we go to ignition.hackthebox, it will know that this is the IP it maps to. That came back quickly enough. It can take a little while. This is really annoying, because sometimes you'll type in like a really long string at the end of this, you know, like your queries and things like that. Maybe you're trying some kind of, I don't know, injection or something there, and it'll search it on Google, and then you have to go and type it out again. I know you can go and stop that from happening, but sometimes you want to be able to type things in here to Google as well. So I don't know. So that came back. Let's go and see what it was asking for though. It wanted the service version, Nginx 1.14.2. Submit that. And what is the 3-digit HTTP status code when you visit? So this is going to be a HTTP redirect, which is 302. So if we go and take the IP address and visit that in the browser, it's redirecting instantly to ignition.hackthebox. I'm going to have a look at that in burp and see that, look at the status code here, 302 found, which means it's then going to redirect to whatever the new location is set to. You can see the new location here is ignition.hackthebox. So it redirects and then it loads ignition.hackthebox, which we're now able to view because we've got the host file populated. Okay, and the next part is, what is the virtual host name? Okay, so ignition.hackthebox. Just going to copy the HTTP, but we'll just take that out. And what is the full path to the file on the Linux computer that holds a... Okay, great. So etc host, that's where we just updated our host file to link the IP to the domain. And what is the full URL of the Magento login page? Okay, let's go here, sign in. And we have our URL then at the top, and it looked like it was going to end with the login. You can see here the N at the end, so let's take everything from up to this point, submit. And that was wrong. Okay, let me take that away again. So it's dot something, dot HTTP slash, I guess it just wants slash login. That's also incorrect. Okay. Slash admin. Oh, okay. Alright, I guess probably what we should have done is some directory bust in there to get through that, because if you go through the actual system here, that's not what comes up. Let me change that to admin. Ah, there's the Magento. Yeah, okay, so we weren't even looking at the Magento login. And then we're asked what password provides access as an admin to Magento, and it ends with a 3. So the first thing we want to do here is probably have a Google to see, does Magento have a default password, default credentials? What's the default Magento admin username and password? And we'll be told that the default username and password should be that which you added in the installation process. Never good to hear for an attacker. And the default login, admin, the default password 123123. Okay. 123123 can be found in the install.php file as well, but obviously we don't have access to that. Let's try it then. Admin 123123, login, incorrect. And we have a message here saying it was either incorrect or your account is temporarily disabled. Please wait again and try later. Let's see, is there any additional information here? We could try and use a tool like Hydra or ffuzz or wfuzz or the burp suite intruder or something like that to brute force potential passwords. One thing we normally want to do in that case as well is just make sure that there isn't any brute force protection in place. We did see a message there saying that accounts can be temporarily disabled. So sometimes you'll have a case where if you try to brute force or you try to log in say 10 times in an hour, then your account will be disabled for 24 hours or something like that. So that's something worth bearing in mind. Let's actually search Magento brute force protection. Okay, so not too much information here, but it says it was designed to manage access for Joomla login page. Plugin creates a wall between your login page and the hackers. So this is actually designed to prevent brute forcing. It says it's perfect against different types of bots and hacking tools, works perfectly on slow and busy servers, etc. Okay, so with the brute force protection, we're going to need to be quite careful about how many attempts we give here. Let's have a look and see what is the Magento password policy or requirements. Does it need to have special characters? Does it need to have numbers? What's the minimum length, etc.? And it looks like you can configure this manually, so it could be anything, but what's the default? Let's go back here. Default. What Magento version do we have as well, does it say? Don't see it mentioned there. Let's have a look at the page source. Version. Again, don't see anything. Okay, it says here, by default passwords that are used to log into the admin must be 7 or more characters long and include both letters and numbers. Yeah, okay, so it did mention it here as what the default was. So we could go through and try some particularly common passwords. We might want to try and, for example, let's do admin, and then admin, but it needs to be 7 characters long and it needs to contain numbers. We know that the default is 123123, so we could do admin 123. He's still, he's still very much guessing there, but it's an educated guess at least. So top 10 passwords. We could go and just grab this from a list of passwords that we have. In fact, let me do head user share word list. No, user share sec lists. Passwords probable top 1575. So we get a list of top passwords here. We could go through and try each one of these. I'm not going to try the ones with the numbers. Let's do password 123 as well. Submit that, no entry, and then the next one is QWERTY, admin QWERTY 123. Okay, I had to pause the video there. It actually took at least 2 minutes there to log in. I'm not sure why, but we eventually got back our flag anyway, which you can see here on the main dashboard. So the password was QWERTY. I was just thinking there, how are we going to get the password? And then I realised we just used the password. Alright, so hack the box, put in our root flag, and submit. There we go, so that's ignition done. Let's close these down and let's boot up the next box, which is Pennyworth. So I'll let this boot up and I'll come back. Okay, so we've got our IP address again. Let's go and run a ping, make sure we're definitely connected. Yep, we're getting responses. Let's do our nmap. Let's do all ports, service enumeration, default scripts, and oh, nope, something's not looking right there. Let's run that and let's see what questions it's asking us first of all. So it asks us first of all, what does CVE stand for? Common vulnerabilities and exposures. Common vulnerabilities and exposures. I'm sure case sensitivity doesn't matter there. What are the 3 letters in CIA, as in the cybersecurity, not the other CIA? And it's confidentiality, integrity, availability. So they're the 3 things that we really want to maintain for security: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So whenever you're protecting data, you want to make sure it's kept confidential. You want to make sure the integrity is maintained, as in nobody can modify it without you knowing. And you want to make sure the data is available. These are the 3 kind of key aspects of cybersecurity, which relate to data, relate to servers, things like that. You want to keep them confidential, you want to maintain the integrity, and you want to make sure they're available. Oh, sorry, availability. I've spelled something wrong there, haven't I? Confidentiality, integrity, availability. Is it looking for capitals? I hope not, because that would be kind of ridiculous. No, alright. Let me delete that. Oh, it wants commas in between them. Okay. Confidentiality, integrity, availability. And what version of the service is running on port 8080? We've got, that's the only port that's up, and it's Jetty 9.4.39. Submit that. What version of Jenkins is running on the target? Let's go and try to access this IP on port 8080. We've got a sign-in page here, and let me see, can we just username password invalid. Let's have a look at the page source to see, do we have anything of interest here? Any mention of version? No. Okay, if we go back to our nmap scan, it did show that we have a robots.txt here as well, so we could try to access robots.txt. And this just provides a list of all the files and directories that they don't want robots to click on. So whenever search engines are indexing websites and stuff, this file will tell them what directories and things to ignore. But there's nothing of interest there for us either. Let's go back here again. Let's do Jenkins default credentials. I'm not sure that they actually have default credentials, but let's see. Default password and username. No, so alright, so they've got a username and then they've got a file where the default password is in here, but that's not going to help us. We've got an option to reset the admin password, but we need access to the system in order to do that. Let's go back again. What is the default Jenkins password? No, okay. So, I mean, there doesn't seem to be any examples here of what the initial password should be. It all seems to be down to this file. You can see here an admin user has been created and a password generated, so I don't know how we're supposed to work that out. Let me go back to, let's check the hint here. Task 4 hint, bottom right hand corner of the administrative page. Okay, so if we can get into the administrative page, we'll get the version. Thanks very much for that amazing hint. Let's have a look at the walkthrough, because I don't want to waste too much time. I mean, we could go through here and try using one of those tools I mentioned, Hydra or WFuzz or FFuzz or something like that, but the problem is it's not. You can see here the login. We have this post JSpring security check, and as far as I'm aware, there's no easy way to brute force this. So let's have a look and see what the intended solution was here. It's worth having a look at these walkthroughs once you get past each box. I know I haven't been doing that as well, but you can see. Let me not skip too far ahead in case we get some answers. But these write-ups have quite a lot of detail, so you'll pick up a lot more information reading through these probably than you will watching my video. But let's see what they wanted us to do here. The only hint of leverage we currently have against this login screen would be to attempt logging in using default credentials. In hopes that server administrators have not yet finished configuring, we can perform a Google search for the default. I mean, alright, that's exactly what we did, unless we're just missing the fresh install bit of the search. No, it's just the same. It's telling you to just go to the initial admin password. Default credentials after installation. Let's have a look. No, it's the same. There's no suggestions of passwords here. Okay, let's go back to the walkthrough. The following results are returned. They are not the results that were returned. One second. Let me check. Instead of doing Stack Overflow, instead of doing DuckDuckGo, let's have a look with Google. Is there any suggestions here? There isn't. There is literally no default credentials here. Let's have a look. Exactly the same. Alright. I'm not sure whether this is a bit out of date or whether these have been removed from Google searches or something, but I mean, I guess these are fairly default credentials. We could have gone through and tried some of these anyway. Password, admin, root, and then the same with a 1. So we could do admin. Let's do admin 1. No. Admin. Password, no. Admin, password 1, no. Admin, roots, admin, root 1. What did I miss there? Okay, let's try root as well. Root password. Okay, it was root password. Okay, I mean, I'm not really convinced about that methodology. After attempting multiple connections from a list above, we land on a successful login. Yeah, it's okay if you find this list, or if the challenge, if you're given it, if we're expecting a password to be easily guessed on here, it wasn't really clear that was the solution to me. Okay, anyway, we've got our error 404 not found. Let's go to the dashboard now that we're logged in. And we found our version down here, Jenkins 2.289. Let's close down this walkthrough and submit that answer. Okay, next we're asked what type of script is accepted as input on the Jenkins script console. So go back to our dashboard. We can see right here we have this Groovy script. We've been made aware that Groovy script console is insecure and must be disabled. Okay. Well, it looks like Groovy is going to fit into this placeholder. Submit that. Awesome. And what would the string command variable from the Groovy script snippet be equal to if the target VM was running Windows? So I'm assuming this is going to be maybe command.exe. Just kind of guess based on the name here, and then obviously Windows being the .exe format and the placeholder was an easy enough one. What is a different command than IPA could we use to display our network interfaces information on Linux? ipconfig. Oops. ipconfig. That's what we've been. Oh, that's wrong. Okay. ipconfig. Oh wait, ifconfig. What am I talking about? Don't even know how to use Linux. I don't know how many times I've run that command today, but quite a few. That's what we checked at the beginning to make sure our IP address was there. Alright, what switch should we use for Netcat to use UDP transport mode? That's a good question actually. Let's go and have a look. Netcat-help and presumably, yeah, just -u. Okay, UDP mode. It's not something I can ever really recall doing. Definitely not in a long time. -u, what is the term used to describe making a target host initiate a connection back to an attacker host? And this would be a reverse shell. Great, alright, now we just need to submit the root flag. So we've been given a couple of hints as to how we'll go about this. It's told us there about, asked us what a reverse shell is. We could go ahead and use searchsploit as we've done previously and look for Jenkins. We could specify the version as well that was available here. Let's just say even 2. And we could go through some of these. So for example, remote code execution, we've got one here with Metasploit. I'm not sure if the version matches up there. I'll change that to 2.289. Nothing specifically for that one. Alright, so you're going to have some kind of generic ones here as well, but if we go back to our Jenkins here, go back to dashboard, we can actually access the script console which had been mentioned there previously. You can do that through manage, and then you can see here, type in an arbitrary Groovy script and execute it on the server. So now we want to find some code to use as a reverse shell, so we can say Groovy reverse shell, have a look at some of the results. I normally use payloads all the things. I think I actually have the repo on my desktop as well. You can see an example here though. This is basically the shell that is on payloads all the things as well. You can see here we select Groovy, we've got a reverse shell, we take a copy of that and then we can go ahead and modify. So for example we need to change our IP address, we'll change the port as well. I'm going to put that 1337. Doesn't really matter as long as you know where it's going. And then we need to put in our IP address, so we'll take a copy of that from ifconfig. At the moment this is set to launch cmd.exe as well, so we'll need to update this just because we're going to be using the Linux version. So we'll say here bin/bash or bin/sh, and let's go back, let's launch our netcat listener, nlvp 1337. Let's hit run. Just scroll all the way over here. Go back to our terminal and you can see that we've got this shell. We could now go ahead and make this, upgrade this. Let me go back to my notes here where I normally just copy and paste this stuff in. So we can do Python 3 import, basically importing pty and then spawn in bin bash. If you don't have Python 3, sometimes you'll just need to go and change that to Python. And you can see now it's actually given the user and the system that we're connected to. So now we do Control and Z to background it. We can do sttty raw-echo and then also foreground that as well. Finally we just want to export term equals xterm, and now we'll be able to clear the terminal and things like that as well. There you go, so we're connected. Let's have a look. Do we have, I don't see a root flag here. Let's go and have a look in root. There we go, cat flag.txt, and there we have our root flag. Okay, so that is Pennyworth complete. We're on to our final machine from the Tier 1 track, which is called Tactics. Okay, so we've got our IP address here. Again, we'll go and make sure that we're connected. I'm going to try and speed through this one a little bit, just to, I'm aware the video is getting quite long. So I'm going to do all ports, versions, default scripts, get that running. And the first question it's asking us here is, which Nmap switch can we use to enumerate machines when our packets are otherwise blocked by the Windows firewall? Okay, so yeah, you can see it's actually come back there, it's being blocked, and it's actually told us straight away, -pn. So it's blocking our ping probes, try -pn. Alright, so we'll try it. -pn. You can also use, there's the stealthy scan, you can use the -t flag as well, T4 and things like that. There are a variety of methods for being a bit quieter with Nmap. Let's make sure this was correct here as well. And it was. And SMB, alright, so this actually came up on the last video and I got it wrong, so let's see if we can get it right this time. It is server message block. I put server message bus last time, I think. Okay, and what port does SMB use to operate? Well, there's actually a couple. We could put 45 there. We could have also put 139 there as well. And what command line argument do you give to SMB client to list the available shares? That's -L, capital L. All of these answers, again, if you're not too sure what they are, would do SMB client. Just type it in. It's going to give you a list of all the possible options here, and we'll see that -L is the option to list the shares. Alright, let's go back to our scan here as well. So we got, 135, 139, 445. And we've got some script results as well. It's asking us what character at the end of the share name indicates it's an administrative share. Oh, that's not a $sign. And which administrative share is accessible on the box that allows users to view the whole file system. Assuming that's going to be C $. Yep, alright. Let's go and, while we're doing this, let's go and actually try and run some of these commands as well. Let me get the IP address. Okay, so it's not actually allowing us to list the shares there anyway. Let's see, what can we use to download the files? Same as FTP, so we use get and mget as well for multiple files, presumably. Which tool that is part of Impacket collection can be used to get an interactive shell on the system? Just before I answer this, let's actually go and have a quick look at Impacket. It's something I've not actually used in quite a while, but it has a lot of different scripts available for penetration testing. What protocols are featured here? So, what is Impacket? Let's start with that. Collection of Python classes for working with network protocols. Impacket is focused on providing low-level programmatic access to packets and for some protocols, the protocol implementation itself. Packets can be constructed from scratch as well as parsed from raw data, and the object-oriented API makes it simple to work with deep hierarchies of protocols. The library provides a set of tools as examples as to what can be done. Description of some of the tools can be found at, so you can actually go and have a look at an article here to talk about what some of the tools are. And straight away, look what we see here: PS exec and SMB exec. So similar to PS exec, technique is described here. Our implementation goes one step further, instantiating a local SMB server to receive output from the commands. This is useful in a situation where the target machine does not have a writable share available. And you can see we have plenty more here as well. We've got some stuff for Kerberos as well, Windows secrets, man-in-the-middle attacks, SMB. It's a very big library of scripts, and if you're doing OSCP or you're doing HackTheBox machines, you will come across these quite regularly. Here's an article going into depth about this, which obviously I'm not going to do. Let's go back and say SMB exec.py. So we might need to try some of the Impacket scripts then, but let's just go back first of all and see, can we access that SMB share again. So we can use SMBMap or SMB client. Did try this previously just without any credentials, but let's try it first of all with let's try that again. Nothing. Okay, let's try and do it with the username administrator. Blank password. Okay, so it now allows us to list those. So what we would do from here then is SMB client, and then we'll specify the username as administrator still, but we want to supply our IP address. We want to do / here and then a slash at the end, and then say which directory you want to access. I'm going to say admin first of all, and it seems to have allowed us, yeah, we've got full access in here, full read access at least. So can we enumerate? Can't go there. Okay, let me go back again, and let's try the C drive. Now we can go and have a look around. I wonder is there anything in the recycle bin. There's something, but it doesn't look like a flag anyway. Let's go into users. Let's go into administrator. Anything here? No. Let's go to the desktop. And there we go. So we can get flag.txt. We can cat flag.txt. And we've got our flag. So typically these flags will be placed either in the documents or on the desktop of the user that we're trying to compromise. Submit that, and that is our final flag. And we've completed the tier 1 starting point, which means we've now unlocked the tier 2. Don't forget to contemplate, and this will be our next video where we'll go through these 5 machines. And that's going to wrap it up for this video then. So probably within the next week or two I'll try and get this tier 2 done and get the video uploaded, and then everything's completed, you can go and then start working through the machines on HackTheBox, and you can always refer to IPSEC or XCT's walkthroughs if you get stuck on those, or go through some of the challenges on HackTheBox, which I've done write-ups for most, or video walkthroughs for most of the retired challenges. Obviously active challenges I can't do that, but for active challenges you can try and solve the challenge, and then once you've got the flag, quite often I'll just put the scripts for these up onto GitHub, password protected, so you can go and have a look through my solution if you are interested to see how I did it. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video anyway. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thanks.